When she took her sister's place at the cafe, the man at table 3 revealed an incredible secret. Sarah never expected to be the one behind the counter day after day, pouring coffee and balancing trays at the Maplewood Café. Yet here she was, her sister's carefree life traded for an exhausting routine of juggling shifts and single motherhood. Bills were piling up like the dirty dishes in the sink at home. For the first time, the thought of swapping shifts with Liz didn't just feel like desperation, it felt like a leap into unknown territory, one that could crush her or elevate her. What if this would only sink her deeper into the mundane, rippling the delicate balance she'd maintained for years? As she weaved through tables, she passed Mr. Thompson, who sat alone at his usual table 3, his coffee cup polishing the scarred wood with every sip. He seemed to savor each moment in contemplative silence. It was an odd juxtaposition against the café's humming chatter. The laughter, the occasional outburst of gossip, the faint clinking of utensils formed a dizzying backdrop, but Sarah simply felt exhausted. Every shift drained her a little more. She was torn. Was it selfish to want something more or to seek the kind of life that Liz had? The pressure was mounting. Each bill's arrival felt more suffocating than the last, clutching at her heart like the grip of a vice. Working hard for a job that might not secure Tommy's future weighed on her spirit. Would staying put in the cafe tether her to a life of mediocrity? Taking her sister's place felt like a make-or-break decision, yet her unwavering loyalty to family kept her anchored in suffocating waters. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the midst of her daily grind, a surprising ripple surged through her mundane routine when Mr. Thompson finally spoke. His words sat heavily between them, laden with significance. The turn of the autumn sun through the cafe window illuminated his weathered face, and the revelation he dropped stunned her into silence. A long-forgotten property of her grandfather could change everything. She felt a tempest brewing within her. Could this misbegotten treasure truly alter her path? Yet, alongside that glimmer of hope arose uncertainty. What of Liz's ambitions? Would this discovery fracture the fragile remnants of their sisterly bond? Could Sarah embrace this opportunity, or would she imprison herself in loyalty and fear? Faced with the pinnacle of her dilemma, she hesitated. With each coffee she poured, each conversation she overheard, she couldn't shake the urgent dilemma shadowing her heart. As Mr. Thompson's knowing gaze bore into her, the pressure built. What if this was the moment that changed everything? But as the cafe buzzed around her, the clink of cups, the snippets of laughter, Sarah felt herself spiraling into turmoil. Would the choice to chase this legacy mean abandoning the very roots of who she was? She took a deep breath and gazed out the cafe window, the golden rays dancing across her table. The familiar world outside felt intoxicatingly distant, yet inescapable. The door swung open, revealing a mysterious new patron, and her heart raced with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Something profound was inching closer, something that could reshape her life forever. As they stepped into the cafe, Sarah's mind spiraled with possibilities. Would she find the courage to claim her family's past, or would hesitation doom her to the same weary cycle? As the door swung shut behind the new arrival, Sarah's heart hammered against her chest. The figure stepped into the warm glow of the cafe, drawing brief glances from scattered patrons. A tall man with disheveled hair and striking blue eyes scanned the room before settling his gaze on her. Sarah instinctively straightened, a mix of apprehension and intrigue coursing through her. Could this new patron be linked to the revelation that was shrouded in uncertainty, or was he simply an interloper in her already tumultuous routine? "Can I get you anything?" she asked, hoping her voice conveyed professionalism despite her swirling thoughts. The man approached the counter slowly, a hesitant yet intense look in his eyes. "I heard about the cafe from a friend. Thought I'd stop by, he said, his voice warm but laced with something more an urgency she couldn't quite decipher. Sarah returned his gaze, diving into his eyes in search of answers. Pregnancy-induced fatigue tugged at her eyelids, but she fought it off, clinging to a moment of clarity in the eye of her gathering storm. This man radiated a strange energy, stirring something deep within her, something she had barely begun to explore in the wake of Mr. Thompson's bombshell. "Is everything all right?" she asked, pausing mid-pour. His shoulders relaxed a bit, and he leaned forward, lowering his voice, as though confiding in her was a matter of utmost importance. "You don't know me, but I think we may have something in common." The weight of his statement hung heavily between them, and she inched closer, curiosity piquing her interest. "Common?" Intrigued, Sarah set the steaming coffee pot aside, her hands trembling slightly. "What do you mean?" He glanced around the cafe, ensuring they were not overheard, before continuing. "About a property your grandfather's land. I have some information that could help you understand its real value. But time is crucial." Her breath hitched in her throat. There was a world of possibilities wrapped in his words. The treasure hidden in her grandfather's name could unlock doors she hadn't even dreamt of. Yet, with each glimmering hope arose the shadow of her sister's dreams, each proffered opportunity tainted by the fear of betrayal. "What do I have to do?" she pressed, determination overtaking her fleeting doubts, yet fear still flickered beneath the surface. "Meet me at the old Maplewood estate tomorrow at noon. It's in disrepair but worth a visit to see its potential." His voice gained strength as he spoke, breath coming in steady bursts now, yet the urgency lingered in his eyes. Her heart raced with a chaotic rhythm. Could she really step into the unknown, knowing that every decision would reverberate beyond herself? When had deciding her own fate become so intertwined with familial ties? What if Liz wanted to return? Would that make Sarah an opportunist in her eyes? A new resolve surged within her as she regarded the man before her, an enigmatic guide into her family's past. She weighed the risks of abandoning her fears against the promise of rediscovering her autonomy. Tangible excitement surged through her at the thought of transforming her family legacy, but a familiar unease pooled in her stomach as well. Would this step into the darkness finally allow her to grasp her own identity? "All right," she said, voice steadier than she felt. "I'll be there." The man nodded, satisfaction washing over his features. As he turned to leave, a fleeting thought crossed her mind: was she embarking on a path to discover her family's past, or merely chasing an illusion that could shatter everything she held dear? With the door closing behind him, Sarah's mind swirled with potential outcomes. Could this be the tipping point of her journey, or was it just another fruitless chase leading her deeper into uncertainty? She decided then, she would no longer be ruled by fear of failure but fueled by a desire to reclaim what was rightfully hers. In the dim corner of the cafe, Mr. Thompson looked on, an inscrutable expression on his face. Sarah met his eyes, he offered her a nod, as if sensing her resolve had shifted. But just as quickly, he turned his gaze back to the half-filled cup before him, and a question loomed: what else awaited her in the depths of her family's past? The moment hung thick with unspoken tension, setting the stage for what lay ahead. As she wiped down the counter, Sarah pondered whether she would ever fully understand the far-reaching consequences of her decision. Would she find the courage to step away from the shadows of doubt, or would her past keep her bound? The morning sun filtered softly through the cafe windows, illuminating the dust motes that danced lazily in the air. Sarah arrived early, her pulse quickening as she prepared for the day's shift. Today, however, felt charged with a different energy, a potential that buzzed just beneath the surface. She wiped down the counters, but her thoughts were consumed by the encounter from the day before. Had it really been just a coincidence that the man had walked into her cafe? His information was vital, yet it was a tether to a past she had spent years trying to disentangle herself from. Despite the familiarity of the cafe's warm smells and gentle sounds, her mind raced with the possibilities and pitfalls that lay ahead. As the minutes ticked by, she replayed his words over and over: the old Maplewood estate, worth a visit to see its potential. What potential? Could it be a financial windfall, or merely a reminder of all that had been lost? Her heart squeezed at the thought of Liz, weighing her own aspirations against her sister's unfulfilled dreams. At 10 o'clock, the cafe started to fill, but Sarah moved like a specter through the bustling tables, greeting regulars with half-hearted smiles. The world around her was a blur, her focus narrowed to the upcoming meeting, each interaction pulling her deeper into the ocean of her thoughts. With a moment of quiet, Sarah slipped into the staff room, the small space filled with the scent of freshly ground coffee and pastries. She leaned against the counter and faced her reflection in the grimy mirror. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This could change everything." The image staring back was of a woman at a crossroads, uncertainty written on her face. Something needed to shift, and deep within, she realized it had to start with her. The stakes had never felt higher, yet the opportunity also held the promise of empowerment. Yet she felt twinges of guilt. What if Liz returned? What if she genuinely needed her share, her piece of the legacy that Sarah was now considering seizing? The conflict split her resolve. Could she find a way to unify her ambitions with her loyalty to her sister? A jolt of determination surged within her. No longer could she remain paralyzed by the fear of making choices that might hurt the ones she loved. If she didn't take action, she risked stagnation. With every ounce of her being, she vowed that discovery wasn't just an individual pursuit, it was a reclamation of her own identity. But would that identity hold up against the looming shadows of her family's legacy? Had her familial bonds truly defined her, or could she recraft them into something that reflected her own aspirations? As she made her way back to the main floor, a familiar face caught her eye. Mr. Thompson had entered the cafe again, this time looking decidedly more active, his posture rigid, almost alert. A sense of urgency brewed behind his eyes as he noted her presence. Sarah felt an inexplicable connection with him, an unspoken understanding of the weight they both carried. "Sarah," he began, catching her as she carried a fresh pot of coffee toward a table. "I noticed you've been distracted lately. Everything all right?" She hesitated, mulling over his intuitiveness. He was sharp, incisive, and perhaps a bit too perceptive for her liking. Yet, there was something unshakable about him, an anchor in the tumult of her thoughts. "Just thinking about the future," she confessed, unable to mask her vulnerability. "Good," he said, a hint of approval lighting up his face. "You know, every path we take culminates in a choice. Embrace that choice when it comes. Not everyone is so lucky to get a second chance." His words struck deeper than she expected, the truth resonating inside her. A second chance, that was what she needed. But would it be at the old Maplewood estate? The clock was ticking down to noontime. With each tick, anticipation and anxiety tightened their grip. The confrontation with her past loomed ever closer, and the tension was palpable. She stood on a precipice, and everything hinged on what she would discover next. Spurred by newfound conviction, Sarah rejoined her responsibilities, but her mind remained a teeming whirl of considerations. What truths awaited her? Would she embrace or run from the revelation that lay hidden beneath the facade of the estate? As the owner of her choice unfolded, one question hung over her thoughts when the time came: would she have the courage to face not only her family's history but her own burgeoning aspirations? The cafe hummed with a comfortable rhythm, the clattering of cups mingling with quiet chatter, but Sarah felt out of sync with the world around her. An invisible thread tugged at her consciousness, leading her away from the familiar sights and sounds. She moved instinctively, pouring coffee and delivering pastries, yet each routine action chimed in discord with the chaos in her mind. What had Mr. Thompson seen in her? His penetrating gaze seemed to strip away her layers, exposing the vulnerability she had carefully camouflaged. She needed to confront the gnawing decision before her: not just the estate, but her own place within her family's legacy. Was she to carry the burden, or could she redefine it? Taking a deep breath, Sarah forced herself to focus. The cafe was filled with warmth, and the scent of fresh brews enveloped her, grounding her in the moment. Yet the thought of the Maplewood estate loomed on the horizon like an uncharted boat at sea. Each time she glanced at the door, it felt like an invitation to a life she had long kept at bay. As the lunch rush tapered, Sarah's heart quickened with the thought of what lay ahead. She glanced over at Mr. Thompson at his usual corner table, lost in his newspaper. Maybe he could help her understand her tangled emotions. The notion tugged at her, perhaps it was time for candor, to lay bare the truth she was wrestling with. "Mr. Thompson, could we talk?" she asked, her voice hardly above a whisper but imbued with urgency. He looked up, surprise flickering across his features before settling into a gentle smile. "Of course, Sarah. What's on your mind?" She settled across from him, nearly trembling with anticipation. "It's south about the Maplewood estate." To her surprise, he leaned in with genuine interest. "Ah, so you've decided to consider it?" "That's just it," she said, biting her lip. "I don't know if I should. It feels like both an opportunity and a burden, especially with my sister Liz still out there." Mr. Thompson regarded her for a moment, his expression contemplative. "You're fighting a dual battle, one with your past and one with your potential. The choice to reclaim something doesn't diminish your relationship with your sister unless you let it." His insight struck a chord. She had been viewing her ambition in isolation, flawed in her belief that grabbing hold of her future meant letting go of her familial ties. But what if Liz needs it? What if she comes back and I've changed everything? "Sometimes," he said slowly, "allowing ourselves to grow is how we honor those we love. It's not about choosing one over the other, it's about weaving your own tapestry while respecting the threads that bind you." Sarah nodded, feeling a flicker of hope igniting within her. Maybe she could carve a space for herself that allowed for both her aspirations and her sister's memories. The unease dissipating, she leaned back in her chair. "So, you really think I should explore the estate?" "Absolutely," he replied with conviction. "Not just for the potential it holds, but to understand how it fits into the narrative of your life. It's all about perspective. You can navigate both the past and the future at once." A shiver of clarity ran through her. Perhaps this exploration wasn't merely about property or profit, perhaps it was a journey to discover her identity, beyond the shadows cast by her family. She stormed back into the cafe after their conversation, buzzing with a newfound energy. The routine tasks ahead held promise. Each cup poured was a step toward her evolution, a decision not made in haste but in earnest reflection. As the clock inched closer to closing time, she found herself contemplating the preparations she would need. Not just for visiting the estate but for embracing whatever future awaited her there. Would this be the moment she seized a chance to integrate her ambitions with her responsibilities? Before she could spiral into worry again, the door swung open. A gust of wind accompanied a figure cloaked in darkness, an uncanny resemblance to a forgotten chapter of her past that left an electric tension in the air. The moment was precarious. Her heart raced at the thought of confrontation. Who was this new player, and what secrets did they bring? As she straightened her back, ready to face whatever came, uncertainty and anticipation shared equal space in her mind. The figure stepped inside, the bell above the cafe door tinkling, drawing the attention of several patrons, but Sarah's focus solely fixed on the shadow that seemed to envelop the stranger. He moved with an unsettling grace, as if he were both familiar and foreign, like a scene from a forgotten dream. Dread crept into her veins. She had not just been pondering change, she was faced with its embodiment. Would this person be yet another reminder of the world she had tried so hard to forget? As the figure approached the counter, the chatter in the cafe dulled, and she tried to remember what she had learned from her chat with Mr. Thompson about embracing both the past and future. Perhaps she needed to engage with this mystery, rather than shy away. "Can I help you?" Sarah managed, her voice steadier than she felt. He raised his gaze, revealing eyes that mirrored her own struggles, a longing to reconnect, perhaps. "I'm looking for someone," he said, his voice tinged with a rough shadow. "Sarah?" Her heart raced as she stepped back instinctively. "Who wants to know?" With the slightest quirk of his lips, he seemed to sense her hesitance. "I know it's been a while, but it's me, Jake." The name flashed through her mind, stirring up buried memories. Jake, her childhood friend, had always been a solid point in her world, until life and growing responsibilities pulled them apart. Jake? What are you doing here? The questions bubbled up like indistinct shards of glass. I thought you moved to the West Coast. I did, he acknowledged, watching her intently. But I came back. There are people here who need to understand what happened, all of us, in some way. The urgency in his tone caught her off guard. What do you mean, what happened? Jake took a step closer. Your sister, Liz, she has been looking for you. And there is something important you need to know about the estate, too. His words opened a deep fissure in her psyche. Liz was still searching for her. Hadn't Sarah been grappling enough with her own decisions? Her throat tightened as anxiety rose. I can't just drop everything to chase after her. Jake shook his head firmly. It's not about running after her. It's about understanding where you both fit into the story. You have the chance to claim something, Sarah, a piece of both your pasts, or to let it slip away entirely. Sarah struggled to wrap her mind around his insistence that Liz was tied to the Maplewood estate. Did she really want to follow where this conversation led, risking the fragile peace she had begun to build within herself since hearing Mr. Thompson's encouraging words? Look, I'm not here to push you, Jake said softly. But, you might want to reconsider what you think is at stake here. The estate holds more than just bricks and mortar, it could serve as a bridge. Maybe it's where healing begins for both of you. The idea of finding healing sounded almost foreign, yet tantalizing. Could the estate represent not just a physical place, but an emotional one, where past wounds could begin to mend? Suddenly, clarity bloomed in her mind. The very act of reclaiming the estate held the potential for her to reconnect with Liz and herself. Balance. It was always going to be about balance. Jake, she said slowly, figuring out her next words while feeling the weight of past regrets in the air. If I choose to explore the estate, then I'll need your support. Help me understand what this means to both of us, our family. He nodded, a glimmer of hope igniting in his eyes as he gestured toward the door. Let us go. In that moment, Sarah felt the blend of fear and determination seize her. Would this be the leap she'd been waiting for? As she stepped outside, the chill air brushed against her skin, awakening a tingle of expectation. What lay ahead, with a re-emerging past beckoning her, felt both uncertain and thrilling. The universe, it seemed, was pulling her toward a convergence of identities she had long wrestled with, but her journey was just beginning. Little did she know, the real narratives of both the estate and her sister were yet to unfold. A tangled web of history, choices, and confrontations awaited. As they walked toward the fading light, Sarah felt the inevitable pulse of change throbbing within her. Would she find the answers she desperately needed, or would this journey into the past unravel her even further? The pavement felt uneven beneath Sarah's feet as she walked alongside Jake, the weight of anticipation growing heavier with each step. The café slowly faded behind them, replaced by the chill evening air and the faint whisper of autumn leaves. The world felt transformative, charged with the promise of clarity yet clouded by the shadows of her past. Each direction they took seemed to echo with unspoken fears and buried hopes. What happens when we get to the estate? She finally asked, her voice laced with tension. Much as she wanted to believe that she could handle what lay ahead, the reality of confronting her sister and the complexities of their shared history gnawed at her. Jake glanced sideways at her, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. We figure it out together. It might not be what you expect, but you deserve to confront it. Just remember, you have a choice. Every step is yours to take. His words settled into her mind like a pebble dropped into still water, sending ripples outward. What would it mean to confront Liz? Would it entail an acceptance of the past that had haunted her for so long? Or would it ignite more conflict between them, forcing Sarah to relive the pain she had tried to sidestep? As they approached the sprawling property of Maplewood Estate, its once grand silhouette loomed against the twilight sky, a haunting reminder of her childhood. The vulnerability she felt surged again. She had spent so long building walls, securing her heart against the vulnerability of past family strife. Now, standing at the gates, she felt those walls start to tremble. "Let's take it slow," Jake suggested, noting the uncertainty radiating from her. His breath mingled with the cool evening air, forming small clouds as he spoke. "We can walk through it together. You don't have to dive into anything you're not ready for." "Thank you," she whispered, gratitude seeping into her tone. His easy acceptance of her pace helped ease some of the anxiety coiling in her stomach. Perhaps the very act of entering the estate might unravel some of the threads binding her to her past. Resolutely, she nodded, pushing down fear and allowing curiosity to surface. The gates creaked open, revealing an overgrown path leading to the weather-beaten facade of the estate. Her heart raced as memories surged forth, her childhood laughter echoing in the halls, time spent with Liz before it all became so complicated. Was there still a part of that joy left to reclaim? Once inside, the familiar sense of damp wood and dust wrapped around her. The floor creaked underfoot, a subtle reminder of the years gone by. She breathed in deeply, the air heavy with nostalgia and secrets waiting to be uncovered. "This place feels alive," she confessed, aware that the emotions playing out in her heart were reflected in everything surrounding her. Jake smiled, his presence a reassuring buoy in the murky waters of her reawakening memories. "It has its own story to tell. Just as you do. And the story of you and Liz is intertwined with this place." Rounding a corner, they discovered the old parlor, dimly lit and filled with objects that seemed to vibrate with history. A faded photograph of the three of them, Sarah, Liz, and their parents, sat atop the mantelpiece. The past hovered around her like a specter. Her hands trembled, and for a moment, she hesitated. "Do you want it back?" Jake asked gently, his gaze fixed on her. "You can reclaim it. You can revive this connection, if that's what you want. But it starts with confronting it all, no matter how painful." His words prompted an internal battle. The prospect of revisiting old wounds felt daunting, yet a flicker of determination ignited within her. Healing, she reminded herself, often begins in discomfort, and perhaps the connection she'd long denied needed this reckoning. "Let's do this, then," Sarah said, her voice steadying as resolution tightened its grip around her. "I'm ready. Let's uncover what needs to be found." As they began to sift through memories, objects and remnants of a life once vibrant with familial ties, an unexpected noise echoed through the halls. An uninvited presence lurked in the shadows, and suddenly, that familiar wave of dread washed over her once more. What if the answers they sought were guarded by more than just memories? The candle flickered ominously, casting distorted reflections as Sarah felt the pulse of fear and excitement challenge her growing resolve. What secret lay hidden in the depths of the estate that could change everything she believed about her past, her sister, and herself? The shadows deepened as Sarah stepped further into the parlor, heart racing at the unexpected sound echoing from the adjacent room. It felt eerily alive with a history that pressed down on her, and for a moment, she was back where she started, trying to escape a past that seemed unwilling to let go. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake's brow furrowed, the warmth of his presence stilling her spiraling thoughts for a moment. "Just a creak, I'm sure. Houses like this hold on to sounds," Jake reassured, moving cautiously toward the doorway on the far side. The other room beckoned, but the weight of unspoken emotions pulled Sarah back into the moment. The photograph burned in her mind, each face a reminder of what had been lost. What remained between them was tangled and unresolved. With determination, she followed Jake, each step boosting her resolve. This estate was not only a relic of childhood but a reflection of who she had become, someone standing at a crossroads, poised to confront her sister, and the very foundation of their fractured relationship. The room was shrouded in deeper shadows, filled with the remnants of their family's past, broken furniture, worn books, and dust-covered trinkets that seemed to resonate with memories. "This is where we played," she recalled, her voice wavering with nostalgia. "Before everything changed." Jake surveyed her as though considering her words. And what needs to change now? Her stomach twisted painfully at the question. She needed to explore, not only the old rooms but the dynamics cradling her, her sister, and this house that had witnessed their unraveling. What did she truly want to reclaim? Maybe I don't want everything back, she admitted, feeling a sense of liberation in honesty. Maybe I just need the clarity to move forward. But is Liz even willing to meet me halfway? That's something you'll have to find out, Jake replied, stepping closer, his proximity a steady anchor. Is your fear of confrontation greater than your desire for connection? Sarah stared into the dimly lit corners of the room, grappling with her tangled feelings. The fragments of love and bitterness meshed together like an unbreakable chain. Fear pulsed beneath her skin, but mingled within it was an undercurrent of longing for resolve, for understanding. She picked up a dusty music box from the shelf, fingers brushing across its surface. This belonged to Mom. We used to fight over who got to turn it on. Would confronting Liz reopen old wounds, or could it be a bridge to healing? Jake leaned against the weathered arm of the couch, watching her reflect. If you're open to healing, you might be surprised at what you discover even about yourself. His words ignited something deep inside her, the latent strength she had often overlooked. Perhaps it was time to acknowledge not only the things she feared but also the resilience she had honed over the years. The past had shaped her, undoubtedly, but it didn't have to control her. Resolute, Sarah placed the music box back down, reclaiming national ownership of her emotional journey. I need to talk to her, Jake. I have to know. Just as the determination settled within her, a loud crash echoed from the upper floor, reverberating off the walls. Fear jabbed at her resolve, and uncertainty immediately clawed its way back. What was that? She gasped, eyes darting toward the staircase that loomed like a dark portal. Jake's protective instinct kicked in as he positioned himself slightly in front of her. Whatever it is, we face it together. With the heaviness of a hidden truth and a newfound commitment to face her past, Sarah steeled herself. Here stood a pivotal moment: would she retreat, or press forward into the depths of confrontation? The choice lay before her, shrouded in fear but also imbued with the promise of clarity. Did her sister await upstairs, holding the key to their shared pain? As the echoes faded, one lingering thought gripped her, undeniable: the time had indeed come to face the truth amidst the shadows. Would she like the answers waiting for her on the other side? Sarah's pulse quickened as she stepped toward the staircase. Each wooden step creaked underfoot, mirroring her internal struggle. With every inch she ascended, she felt the weight of unresolved issues pressing down hard on her chest, making her breath shallow. Was she truly prepared to confront Liz? The second floor was a swirling labyrinth of memories, each corner echoing their shared laughter and tears. Memories flitted behind her eyelids like moths around a flame, but now those notions felt tainted by years of silence and hurt. What good would it do to scrape at old wounds? Yet, the gnawing feeling of needing resolution drove her forward. As Sarah reached the doorway at the top of the stairs, a flurry of emotions washed over her. She found herself at a threshold not just of a room but of her own emotional boundaries. She planted her feet firmly on the ground, willing herself to remain in control. Focus, she whispered under her breath, a mantra that steadied her wavering resolve. Jake stood behind her, a stalwart support, but it was her battle to fight. I'll wait here, he said softly. Take your time. She nodded, sipping in the quiet strength of his presence, then pushed the door open, the sharp creaking of its old wood sending her heart racing. The room inside was darker than the parlor, with only a sliver of light filtering through a dust-laden window. Her eyes darted around, landing on familiar shapes, the bed piled high with clothes, the dresser where they used to hide notes written to each other about their secrets. But there was something else, something missing. Liz? She called, the name escaping her lips like a prayer. No reply. The silence instinctively unsettled her. Was her sister even there? Anxiety gnawed at her, but determination rose in its stead. Taking a deep breath, she stepped further inside, eyes scanning for any sign of her sister's presence. As she crossed deeper into the room, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow materialized at the far end, and her hand instinctively clenched into a fist, hovering over her heart. But it was just Liz, slumped in a chair and staring out the window, seemingly lost to the world. "Why are you hiding?" Sarah found her voice breaking through the barrier of unresolved tension. Sudden anger bubbled within, but it was accompanied by a vulnerable fear she couldn't shake. "Can we please just talk?" Liz turned slowly, her face pale and etched with exhaustion. "Talk about what, Sarah?" "About how you abandoned me." The bitterness hung between them like thick fog, tangible and suffocating. "No. It was like that." It doesn't matter now," Liz interrupted, rising to her feet, an intensity brewing in her eyes. "You don't know what it was like. You just left everything." The rawness in Liz's voice struck Sarah deeply, and for a split second, she considered retreating back to the safety of the stairs. But retreat meant losing everything she had fought so hard to reclaim: the connection, the understanding, perhaps even forgiveness. "Maybe I didn't know then, but I'm trying to understand now," Sarah responded, her heart pounding in her ears, echoing the urgency she felt. This was not just a confrontation with her sister, this was her chance to confront herself and the choices she had made. "I've always been the one holding us together," Liz yelled, the anguish etched in every syllable. "And you think a simple 'I'm sorry' is enough? You want to know the truth?" Sarah's eyes burned with unshed tears, a newfound clarity emerging within her. "I was scared. Scared of our past, scared of what it meant to be so close and have it torn apart. You didn't just lose a sister, I lost half of myself too." A silence fell between them, heavy yet pregnant with potential. For the first time, Sarah felt a sliver of hope bloom within. Perhaps this was the moment they both needed: a moment of honesty. But just as Liz opened her mouth to respond, a loud crash echoed through the house again, shaking the walls and their resolve. "What was that?" Sarah gasped, adrenaline surging once more. This time, it wasn't just an echo from the past. This was a real threat crashing down upon them, threatening to tear apart the fragile threads of communication they were weaving. Fear gripped Sarah once more, twisting her stomach. What lay beyond this confrontation? Would they falter, or could they break through? The walls had eyes, she felt them watching, waiting for her next move. In this moment of vulnerability and impending chaos, she realized the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. The truth she had wanted so desperately to face now happened to stand on shaky ground. Next to her sister was uncertainty, looming in shadow: what answer would come next? The thunderous crash reverberated through the house, momentarily snuffing out the fragile flame of connection Sarah had just begun to kindle with Liz. The noise was deafening, as if the walls themselves were coming down around them. In that instant, everything felt suspended: a moment frozen in time, hanging precariously over the abyss of their tumultuous relationship. "Liz, are you okay?" Sarah's voice trembled, unease creeping back in, wrapping around her like a vice. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, a stark contrast to the heavy emotional weight she had just begun to address. The chaos outside the room heightened her senses, forcing her to confront the urgency of this confrontation amid the chaos. Liz stood frozen, her expression a mask of defiance and fear twisted together. "What was that? Do you think he is back?" she asked, her eyes wide. In that moment, Liz's vulnerability pierced through Sarah's own fears. They had been living behind walls built of silence and misunderstanding for too long, and now, the uncertainty of the situation outside threatened to topple them entirely. A part of Sarah felt she had to protect them both, but there was another part desperate for resolution with her sister. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, taking a step closer. "But right now, we need each other. We can't let whatever that was stop us." "Why should I trust you?" Liz snapped, bitterness lacing her words. "You walked away when I needed you most." Sarah's heart sank. It was true, but she couldn't let the past overshadow their chance for healing now. She had to be the one to face the truth head-on. I'm not here to defend my choices, Liz. I came back because I want to make this right, not just for you but for me, too. I can't lose you. I need my sister. The fierce look in Liz's eyes faltered just slightly, conflicting emotions flickering across her face. Yet, fear still tightened its grip on the two of them, insisting they cling tightly to the past instead of confronting the present. Suddenly, another crash echoed through the old house, this time closer, shaking loose debris from the walls. What the hell is going on? Sarah ground her teeth, panic surfacing mixed with anger. Out of instinct, she was compelled to march toward the door. I have to see, she murmured almost to herself. But as she stepped towards the threshold, Liz's urgent voice called her back. No, Sarah. Don't. Just stay here. I can't just wait. Sarah pressed on, the fight awakening a resilience she forgot she had buried. I need to know what is happening. You can either come with me or stay here, but I'm not going to cower from fear. The words hung unspoken in the air, intense and raw, embodying everything that circled them. She was no longer just confronting Liz, she was challenging the very fear that had trapped them both. In that moment, the silence stretched between them, and Liz's lips pressed into a thin line. Hesitation shimmered in her eyes, but it was overshadowed by that familiar fear of what stepping into the unknown could mean for them both. Fine. I'll come, Liz grumbled, arms crossed angrily, but her voice lacked the bite it had moments ago. Sarah held on to that victory, a flicker of hope igniting her resolve. Together, they edged toward the door, the bond between them feeling almost tangible, like a string trembling in the air, waiting to be plucked. But just as they crossed the threshold, footsteps thundered up the stairs, heavy and deliberate, filling them both with dread. Who is there? Liz hissed in a whisper, the fierce defiance returning but tinged with unmistakable panic. The fear of the unknown loomed larger than ever, but for Sarah, it was now or never. We have to confront whatever is out there. Together. Their shoulders brushed as they stood shoulder to shoulder, hearts pounding in unison, ready to face the unexpected. The past may have held them in chains, but in this moment, they were not just individuals defined by their history, they were sisters, united in the face of an impending darkness. What awaited them on the other side of the door? Would this confrontation lead to liberation or further entrapment, just as the noise outside threatened to engulf them? Only one way to find out. As Sarah braced herself against the doorframe, adrenaline surged through her veins. She felt the weight of her sister by her side, no longer just Liz, the girl who had felt abandoned, but a fierce confidant poised to confront whatever lay ahead. Together, they were a formidable force against the pounding chaos building beyond. On three, Sarah whispered, urgency coating her every word. 1, 2. Their hearts echoed a synchrony louder than the thundering footsteps converging from the outer corridor. 3. They pushed the door open together, collapsing into the broader space of the hallway, bathed in swathes of dim yellow light filtering in from above. Dust motes swirled in the air thick with energy, a testament to the years of neglect and now, the strain of their impending confrontation. All at once, the footsteps halted, and from around the corner emerged Jake, breathless and wide-eyed, betrayal flickering across his face. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. What is going on? Sarah shouted, her intensity striking through the tension. What did you hear? They're coming, someone's still inside this house. Jake's assurance faltered as uncertainty wrapped around them like a shroud. He took a deliberate step closer, gauging their combined presence. You both need to get out now. But urgency was only partially the answer. Sarah turned and caught Liz's gaze, a mirror of uncertainty and resolve. Had they really been standing in each other's shadows for so long that they couldn't relinquish the fear demanding their retreat? The threshold of confrontation had devolved into the heart of their past, transforming the confrontation with fear into a test of their true identities intertwined. This is our past, Jake. It's not something we can run from anymore, Liz said, step by step rising in conviction. The chaos, the memories, they can't own us any longer. A flicker of doubt crossed Jacob's features, but he realized they were no longer looking back. They were both resolute in moving ahead, and this confrontation had morphed into an unveiling not just of their heritage but of their very selves. But if they come for you, I don't care if they come, Sarah declared, breathing life into her outburst. Over the years, she had hidden behind layers of comfort, robbing her autonomy for the sake of worry. I want the truth, not just for me, but for Liz, too. We have to face this together. The sturdiness in her words fortified Liz's own awareness. You're right. We have to see this to the end, whatever it is, we'll face it head on. Just then, the front door stood wide open, revealing a sprawling landscape, trees heavy with memories loomed within view. Shadows flickered in the distance, reminiscent of murmured whispers echoing through time. They had been confined within these walls, but all this while, it was the outside world and what it held that offered the real path to redefine who they could become. In unison, Sarah and Liz stepped towards the light. We need to stand for something, together, Liz asserted, newfound courage lighting a fire beneath the remnants of their heartbreak. They were ready to seize their futures and confront the unknown that resided beyond this threshold. As they moved boldly toward the door, the crashing noise from within ceased abruptly, replaced by an overwhelmed stillness. What shadows they had confronted became nothing but fleeting memories, urging them onward. Hand in hand, they crossed into the bright openness, sunlight cascading across their shoulders, warming their resolve. Behind them lay the weight of their past, ahead, the promise of renewed connection awaited. With eyes trained on the horizon, Sarah turned to Jake with fierce appreciation. Thank you for believing in us, for being a part of this journey. Jake nodded, conviction dancing behind his gaze. You've both grown so much you can reclaim your story. Each step they took outside deepened Sarah's sense of newfound autonomy. The world stretched before them, brimming with uncertainty but illuminated by hope. The trees whispered tales of change, and as they ventured into the unknown, a soft breeze wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. What awaited wasn't solely an encounter with the things that had haunted their childhood, it offered the liberation to connect the entangled lives they had both lived together, Sarah murmured. They strode onwards, ready to welcome whatever emerged from the shadows, knowing they had already conquered their greatest fears. There would be no more hiding. This was their moment, the reclamation of their story, and through it, they could rise and soar as sisters, united in every sense. To embrace all that lay ahead, the blazing connection that tethered them both was now, more than ever, a shared strength. Join the journey. There's so much more to explore. So right now, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. You won't want to miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and push this incredible journey to the next level. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voices matter. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the conclusion of a powerful transformation story. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. This community thrives on personal growth, and your engagement fuels our mission.